This is the 46 of 46 podcast October sessions, where we'll talk all things spooky Adirondacks and more. From Bigfoot encounters on the NPT to ghostly sightings in the trees. We'll dive deep into the heart of these mountains and the people who dare to climb them. From Adirondack Bigfoots to haunted lakeside bark huts. It's all here on the 46 of 46 October sessions. Hello out there! I've seen you've been waiting an entire year for some spooky Adirondack fun. Well, you finally arrived, and welcome back to the October sessions here on the 46 of 46 podcast. A month where we'll have some spooky fun in the woods of the ADK. And last year's October sessions were a big success, and I'm back now with, you guessed it, another episode about the giant who lurks in the darkness. Throwing rocks at your tent. Giving you the sense of being watched in the woods as the hair on the back of your neck stands up. A giant creature who moves through the woods as quiet as a mouse. Only to moments later come barreling through the forest like a freight train. It's time for Bigfoot in the Blue Line, Part 2. This week I'm going to talk to former Paul Smith's college student and avid hunter and fisherman who had an unsettling experience out in a remote section of the northern Adirondacks just a few years ago. And this encounter happened over the course of 3 days while he was fishing and hunting, with each day progressing more and more. His name is Gunnar, and he's here with me tonight to talk about his story and give us an idea of just what lurks deep in the ADK woods. Gunnar, welcome to the October sessions here on the 46 of 46 podcast, and thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, James, thanks for having me, buddy.
Absolutely. It's great to have you. You know, I've always been a big fan of the entire subject of Sasquatch, so actually having the opportunity to talk about Bigfoot here on, my Outdoors podcast and having it revolve around the Adirondacks and, makes sense for this show in particular. And, being October, it's always a real treat for me. But before we get into the Bigfoot encounter, tell me a little bit about yourself. How'd you get into the outdoors? And then how did you end up in the Adirondacks to begin with?
Pretty much, my dad, grandparents, all big hunters, down the line. But it really started with me and my brother and I. We got into rifle hunting, regular deer hunting with my dad, and hiking and all camping and things like that. Early on, in Maine, Connecticut, upstate, usually Adirondacks near Indian Lake and Louis Lake, Long Lake, all those areas. But then my brother and I really took to it. We started bow hunting. We started trapping, big into saltwater and freshwater fishing. And then pretty soon, anything that involved the outdoors, we were a part of. So, and any chance we got to be in the woods, even shed hunting after deer season, stuff like that, we pretty much were in the woods, almost every weekend.
All right, very cool. So obviously you've been, as an avid hunter like yourself, you've clearly been to some very remote areas in the woods where, if you're going hunting, people typically aren't going to be there. So you're clearly going to deep places when you do go out into the woods, which would make this encounter all the more possible and all the more kind of crazy at the same time.
Definitely. So, yeah, so I'm from Long Island, and all around here, we're pretty much doing suburban bow hunting. But when it comes to rifle hunting and bear hunting, we're going to places that, couldn't be deeper into the woods. So, last year, for instance, I shot, I don't know if you know anything about whitetail scoring, but I shot 174-inch whitetail last year, 11-point, pretty much record buck. And my brother actually took the new New York State record, which was a 198-inch typical, which he now holds the record for that in whitetail. Yeah.
Very cool. Where did you get those?
Those actually were both on Long Island. Yep,
Okay,
Suffolk
yeah,
County.
sure, awesome.
And then, so when it comes to bear hunting, though, my brother also holds the unofficial New York State black bear record with a bear that was over 600 pounds. And as far as record book measurements goes, 22 and a quarter inch skull, which was a new New York State record. And then I myself shot a bear my second week of college. I shot a nice 260-pound black bear at Paul Smith's. So that's actually where I went to school. And it's funny how I found the school, Paul Smith's, because everyone in the Adirondacks knows about Paul Smith's. It's almost like a staple up there. If you go for college for environmental science or anything to do with outdoors, either you're going to SUNY ESF or you're going to Paul Smith's. Pretty much everybody knows that. And I found out about the school actually through an online trapping forum. I was big into trapping, big in the outdoors. And a lot of people, said, oh, I went to Paul Smith's. Oh, I went to Paul Smith's. So I said, oh, what is this school about? And I remember being a junior in high school, and I looked it up online. I said, whoa, this might be a place for me. And sure enough, a couple months later, my parents and myself drove up there 7 hours in the Adirondacks and went to Paul Smith's and just fell in love with it. The campus, I mean, a lot of people don't know Paul Smith's actually has the largest college campus in the world of any college. I think it's 14,600 acres they own. Is the largest college campus of any college in the world, which is pretty special and pretty unique. It's just massive amounts of land that they own because there is so much land up there.
Yeah, I never knew that at all. That's a fun fact. I've lived here my whole life. Of course, I know Paul Smith's College. I had no idea, but that's not surprising that they would own so much land out there. Very cool. And clearly, it makes sense that someone like yourself, being into what you're into, a college like Paul Smith's would be very, very appealing. Very appealing.
Definitely.
So
the college has changed a little bit now, but when I went there originally, I mean, especially my first year, I would say 90% of the school either hunted or fished, and 50% of the school did both, and trapped probably too. I mean, it was all outdoorsmen, which was the big attractant for me. All my friends there, everyone was just, we would get out of class and head to the woods every day. It was like oh, what time you get out? Okay, we're going fishing at 5, and then we're going set trail cams at 6. That's pretty much how it was.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And that'll lead us right into your encounter story here. It started with a fishing trip, as I recall. Let's just have you walk us through this encounter. So I know it happened over the course of 3 days in a row. So just take us through the entire story, starting with day one. When did this take place, and just walk us through it. The microphone is yours.
All right. Yeah. So I went to college, got up there late August. I think maybe August 26th, say something like that. Last week of August, 2015, and pretty much the first. I mean, as any new college goer knows, the first 10 days you have nothing other than free time, and you'll never have more free time in your life than you do when you first enter college. You go to one or two welcome events a day, and then the rest of the day is literally yours to do whatever you want with, and you're with new people, new friends, in a new environment usually. So we never had, my friends and I, never had more free time than we did. So every single chance we got, we were in the woods hiking, fishing, and with the Adirondacks is their early bear hunting season. So that particular year, the early bear opening day was September 20th, which would have been just about 3 weeks or so after we got to school. And so my friend Christian and I, who actually happens to also be from Huntington, Long Island, we were big. We all, gung ho about shooting a bear in the Adirondacks. It was something we wanted to do. And so every day for 2 weeks leading up to the early opening season, we were checking trail cams, setting trail cams, just looking for any sort of bear sign we could find. And it happened to be that one of our trail cam locations was very close to what we called our secret honey hole, secret fishing spot, which no one really knew about. And that spot was just awesome. There's a little creek off of Keys Mill Road. Keys Mill turns into Blue Mountain Road, kind of the same road once you go far enough into the woods. And so we had a little spot that was almost like a bowl formed. So it was a little creek that kind of butted up against two cliff edges, 40-foot cliffs maybe. And it was a deep hole where it was just great for trout fishing. Cast as soon as you got into the water, you pretty much were hooked into a 6-inch brook trout. And if you got down past those, you're probably walking away with a 15, 16-inch native brook, which is unbelievable for that area. Is just awesome fish. And we would cook them, eat them. So every day after school, we'd pretty much get in there. And so I guess the day it would have started would have been, let's see here, 9th. Okay, so the 20th, 9th. So the 18th it would have been, yeah. So it would have been, no, I'm sorry, September 17th it would have been. September 17th, I had algebra class until I think 5 p.m. And I really wanted to get out fishing after, but I just didn't have the time. So I told my friend Christian, go without me, go to our secret spot, load up. And he went, sure enough, had a great fish, great afternoon fishing, caught a bunch. And I said, well, after class tomorrow, we'll meet up and do the same thing. I'll go with you then, because I'll get out earlier. So it came to about, I don't know, 4 o'clock, something like that. Meet up with Christian, head to the spot. You need to change into waders for this spot, and then walk down the creek. So we've changed into waders. We're out fishing, and he starts telling me, hey, man, yesterday was pretty crazy. I was fishing here all alone. Of course, it's always all alone because no one else knows about it. And he said he started hearing something that sounded like someone hitting a tree with a baseball bat. Pretty obvious wood knocking. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, that kind of sounds like a Bigfoot thing. I mean, anyone who's turned on finding Bigfoot knows about wood knocking. And so, I'm like, wow, that sounds pretty crazy. Obviously, no one else is out here. We're in the middle of the wilderness. Now, to put it in perspective for some people that may not know Keys Mills Road and Blue Mountain Road, this is a dirt road that you can drive pretty much from Paul Smith's, which is inside the Adirondack Park. You can drive that road all the way to about 10 minutes from the Canadian border on dirt road, passing maybe 3-4 houses and hunting cabins. And almost every time if you drove from start to finish, you wouldn't see another person. You wouldn't see another vehicle. It's a desolate wilderness road with some of the biggest wilderness patches in the entire Adirondack Park, entire New York State, for instance, for that matter, right off that area. So it is absolutely desolate up there. No cell phone service, no nothing, no people, no civilization. Just to give it some perspective. So bring it back. We're fishing there, and he's telling me the story about, what happened yesterday. I said, oh, it's pretty crazy. You heard some wood knocking. And as we're fishing, we're catching a couple. I caught a decent, maybe 15-inch brookie. And it's starting to get darker and darker. Now it's about twilight, and I'm hearing sort of crunching in the woods around me. Very obvious something walking in the hemlocks, just out of sight. And again, we're fishing in sort of like a bowl area. There's